Cosine law, page 15. You only need these two to solve any problem in trigonometry, guys. Cosine law, sine law. Sine law, we already know that you need a pair, correct? Cosine law, you won't have a pair. That's when you know it has to be cosine law, okay? That's basically what I narrow it down to. So this is what the only two cases the cosine law works. Only works in two cases. Okay. Case number one is called SAS. SAS, right? And it's basically think of A as the angle. You only know one angle, and it is surrounded by two sides. It's sandwiched between two sides. Okay? You don't have a pair, right? There's no pair possible here. Or the other case is SSS. Right? All three sides are given. Can you get a pair if you don't have a single angle? No, right? No pair. Okay, so obviously, side is so obvious. I mean, I hope that you know sine law can't even begin to tackle it. This one is sometimes a little tricky, but if you think about it, it's the angle between two sides. You don't have a pair either. So these are the only two cases where cosine law works. And so I'll give you the formulas. Just keep in mind it's the same formula. It's manipulated in such a way that it's easier to solve given the scenarios. Okay, so here are the formulas. If you could write these down. I don't want you to just go off of the formula sheet. I want you to actually have this on your study sheet with a diagram and an example, and I will give you more once we have covered more. So what's the SAS example, SAS? Okay, so let's put a check mark. Let's say for whatever reason, there's only letters here, but we know what C is, we know what B is, and we know that angle in between. Okay. Remember, there's one pattern remains the same, that if you have this angle, you will be able to solve for the side across from it. So in this scenario, the only thing you could do is to solve for the side that is across that one angle that you're given. Okay, so it's side, angle, side. And so here is how the formula would look if you wanted to solve for that side. Ready? You would go a squared is equal to, what are the other two sides that are left, right? B and C. It's equal to B squared plus C squared. What does that remind you of? Pythagorean theorem, but it's not Pythagorean theorem, okay? Here it is. Minus 2 times B, this first one, times C, side C, times cosine of the only angle that we know in this case is angle A. That is the formula for cosine law. It looks scary, but let me tell you, it's very, very straightforward. Okay, what if this side had been called X? Solve for X. Then this would have been angle X, correct? So the only thing that would have changed in this formula is that this would have been side X here, squared, and you would have known the angle X here. Okay? And so this is the only formula that I'm going to give you, even though you could have 3 in total. For every corner, you could make an SAS formula for that corner. So what I mean is, what if you knew this side, that angle, and this side, right? If you had an SAS up here, then you would be able to solve for that side, right? So the letters would just be shuffled. That's all I'm saying, okay? But I'll leave it like that. Okay, so this is what I'm going to tell you. If you could write this down. These are the other two sides. That you're given. Okay? And this is the angle across unknown side. So that's the pattern. That's why I use a red pen, right? Because I want you to see that. That's not red. That is, looks like pink, whatever. Anyway, so how would you work this? I want you to write this down, that at some point, what did you do when there was a squared? What would you end up doing at the very end of Pythagorean theorem? Square root, right? So at the very end, you're going to show me a bunch of work, and then you're going to have to take the square root of a number. Okay? You will have to do that when you're using this version of the cosine law. Okay? Now let's go over to SSS. SSS is a little bit trickier, but not really, but I'm just going to say we know this side, we know that side, we know this side. There's a problem in picking which angle are you going to solve for, because technically you will be able to solve for any three of them that you choose to solve for. But let's say you want to solve for angle A. That's the one you're trying to solve for. Your formula would start as follows. Cosine of that angle is going to be equal to, and watch what I always do. This is my trick to remember. It's just a long line. It's going to be a fraction. There's going to be a plus and a minus. And the trick is to make sure that out of all three sides, if you want to solve for this angle, which is angle A, you're going to have to take this side, in my case A, you're going to have to square it. Put it at the back. So if you're trying to solve for angle A, make sure that whatever is subtracting is the side across that angle. That is the key. And you're left with the other two sides, which is B and C, right? In any order you would like, you fill them in there. And in the denominator, you have these two sides appear again. 2 times B times C. And guess what? At some point when you do the work to solve for angle A, what are you going to have to do to the other side? That's the opposite of cosine. Inverse, cosine inverse. You're going to have to take cosine inverse of some sort of number. There's one caveat, like one extra thing that I need to note here. Note, if numerator, page 15 if you just joined, if numerator is negative, and what do I mean by that? I mean the b squared plus c squared minus a squared. Like if this top part of your formula, if you plug that in and you get a negative, you're going to have an obtuse angle. The angle is obtuse. I'm going to highlight this whole thing. And maybe let's go to town here. I'll just make an arrow to that top part. I'll say more about that later. This is all you need to know for now. So let's use, so you've got two versions of its exact same formula. It's just manipulated in such a way that it is easier to solve for. Okay, let's go over to page 16 and let's try these out. Make sure you have these formulas, of course. I would color code them if I were you. Okay, here we go. Cosine law to solve for side lengths, SAS. I already gave it away, right? But do you see that it's side angle side? I've got this side, I've got the angle, I've got that side, okay? This is SAS, cosine law. Let's set it up. I will write out the formula using letters first. This is the side, the only side I can solve for here. So it's a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c times cosine of, in this case, it's angle A. I will do this in 4 lines altogether, including this one, which is not necessary in the future. A squared is equal to b squared, which is 7.9, c squared, which is 5.2, page 16, so minus 2 times b times c times cosine of angle 43 degrees, I should say. And watch this. If you have a good calculator, like a two-line calculator, you can just do this in one shot. And I really want you to do that if you have a decent calculator. This is the one unit where it's going to pay off to buy your own calculator. Okay, so this is how I type this in. 7.9 x2. I have an x2 button for squaring, okay? I press this one right here. If you don't have the x2 button, you might have a hat button like this. You can go hat 2. That is also squaring. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to go 7.9 x2 plus 5.2 squared minus 2 times 7.9 times 5.2 times cosine of 43. I hit equals, write down the whole thing. I mean, you don't have to do the whole thing, but 29.361, we're going to use all decimals. And what is the next thing you do? Square root, right? Some teachers taught you to square root both sides. That is in fact what you're doing. You're canceling out the square root with squaring. I don't mind that at all. But here's the math part of it. If I leave this on my screen, I just press square root. Some of you have to press the answer button, but I can just hit equals and it will automatically take my answer and square root it. You're ensuring that you're using all decimals. That is 5.42 centimeters. And you're done. These 3 lines are all you need to show me. Okay? I will say must show. Okay? Must show. If I ask you for work, those 3 lines are a must. Question. Do you have a pair now? Could you continue with sine law now? Yes. Okay. So I found this side, so now I have a pair. So if you wanted to solve for anything else, you could switch over to sine law, but you must start with one of them only, okay? I will stop here. Your homework, what? Homework is add formulas on page 15 to study sheets. I'm not asking for a whole lot. That way tomorrow you're not scrambling, right? Trying to get those formulas. Okay. All right.